not even near enough. Like if I could go back in time, I would be like, Elias, put like 100 circles on a page, and until you check 100 circles of customers, that potential customers you've talked to, and not just talking to them, but asking the questions for which the answers, like you won't like the answers. Like ask them the toughest questions and go to the point where you're almost asking them, would you buy this? Like the indicator that I wish I had done, I wish I could go back and do that. If I could change something, I'd go back and do that. Ask them to put money down on the thing that they say they want.
This is Super SaaS Bros with Corey and Jade. Let's jump in.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Super SaaS Bros. We are your hosts, Corey and Jade Silva, and we have the pleasure of speaking with Elias Hage today. What's up, dude?
Oh, what's going on? It's great to be here today.
Great to have you, man. We met, I think 2 weeks ago now at the Social Selling Summit event here in Kelowna. What we love to do, dude, is kind of put you in a situation. So what I'm going to do is kind of frame your mind, put yourself in an Uber, and you're, going to your favorite place, maybe downtown, wherever that is for you. And the Uber driver looks back at you and he asks, "Who are you? What do you do? What do you say?"
All right, so I'd say, hey, Uber driver, my name is Elias Hage. I am the founder and CEO of App8. And what we do here is we help food service brands take more orders and speed up how quickly those orders go from when customers place them all the way to the kitchen by making the entire process digital. So from the moment customer places their order to when they get it, it's fast, it's smooth, it's easy, it's on your phone, it's on your computer, and you got your receipt in your inbox.
Cool, man. And food service, like you also had a stint in corporate with EY. So how'd you go from like corporate EY to digital food service, essentially application that you now do now? Because it's like quite a drastic change, right?
It is. I mean, I like to think that my journey is unusual, but I think everyone has a version of that journey. So I don't come from a food service background. I grew up with numbers and financial world, and what I spent most of my time at EY doing was digital transformation. So I'd work with different companies to help them get more done with less input using technology. It's really the three levers: people, process, technology. Technology was a key part of it, but who's doing what process are they following, and what like tools and technology are they using? I loved it. We put a plan together on how to like get a multiplier out of their output with less input or the same input. And it was a lot of fun. Got to travel to a lot of cool places and do that. But the entrepreneurial bone in me really like took over at one point, and I wanted to see that happen for myself with my own company. And so that's what kind of broke me away. And I started on a journey to figure out what are the problems the world needs solving that I could come in and make happen that weren't happening. I mean, my first books was like 0 to 1 and Crossing the Chasm. Those were the first kind of nonfiction business books that I read, and they inspired me. That plus I think I had something in me that really was itching to go and make that reality. So those were kind of the first stepping stones to leaving the corporate job and starting App8.
Dude, I think, oh, sorry, Clara, just real quick. Yeah. I think it's hilarious how we're like, a lot of us are kind of like inspired into the world of entrepreneurship just by picking up that first book, right? Like whatever that nonfiction book is. For me, it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've heard many stories about like the lean startup was a lot, especially in like our field with software and AI. The lean startup is just like the catalyst for people just diving into entrepreneurship. And then they start to hear about like things like legal frameworks, like the people, process, product thing that you just talked about, right? Like where does the problem lie? So this is something that has just been like a framework for a lot of us when we kind of dive in and we start reading books like The Lean Startup or even like Buy Back Your Time, right? And so it's like we're trying to understand like where does the problem lie? Is it a people problem, a process problem, or a product problem? Try saying that 10 times fast. For you, how do you go about dissecting where the problem lies?
So what I used to do, and I still do it in a certain way, I do it much leaner now, because I used to work with, like giant companies with hundreds or thousands of employees, and then you could translate that to a much leaner company. It still is the same process. You just find leaner ways to do it. I first figure out the benchmark, like what KPIs, like what are the data points that you can identify where you should be? So if the world is getting this output at this level of input, let's draw a range there. And where am I today? Current state, future state, and figure out from there what's involved in that, the people that are involved, the process that's involved, and the tools that are involved. Just map it out. Map out the whole journey, the process, whatever that is. And that's kind of the starting point usually. And usually just doing that exercise, you kind of figure out, oh my God, I have the wrong person in the wrong place, or I'm doing things backwards, or why the hell am I doing this thing manually? It takes up 80% of the time of this whole end-to-end thing. There's got to be something out there that'll make that faster. I had a running list of ideas of things to solve the world and in the world, but like 90% of them I just crossed out. Like I'd say 50% of them would get to validation, and of those, like 40 to 45% of them would just be like, no, that's just not going to work. It's not going to make money, whatever it is. Food service was one of those problems where I found, based on the experiences I had in sit-down restaurants, that it was behind the times. It was not modernized yet, and there was a massive amount of opportunity for digital to kind of go in and take over.
It's also like recession proof. It's like this is an industry, like people got to eat, like that grocery stores, like you just can't, and it's always going to be growing. So as technology grows, it's like, how are these guys adopting this new technology, and how are they basically, like kind of what you're saying about people process product, like what are the products that we can bring in there to help eliminate these bottlenecks?
Oh yeah, but there's so many. So Jay, there's so many nuances that I wish I could go back, tell my earlier self, like, hey, so like I've actually started writing these things down so that I could talk to people about it, and also avoid the same mistake myself, because often we have to be reminded, not told. There's one rule that I kind of tell everybody now, and it's like, I call it the 100 conversation rule. It's when someone comes up and it's like, yo, I've got this great idea, it's amazing, I'm going to do this, we're going to do that, it's going to be great. I like ask, how many potential customers have you talked to? Like, no product, nothing. And it blows my mind, because it's usually like a very low number, or not at all. I just heard from some close family friends. It's like, no. Like, even myself in my journey, I thought, because I'd read these books, and I thought, like, I got this down. I'm talking to customers. I went and hustled, and I got like a dozen to 2 dozen restaurants like I'm talking to about this and wanting to solve. Not even near enough. Like, if I could go back in time, I would be like, Elias, put like 100 circles on a page, and until you check 100 circles of customers, that potential customers you've talked to, and not just talking to them, but asking the questions for which the answers, like, you won't like the answers. Like, ask them the toughest questions and go to the point where you're almost asking them, would you buy this? Like, the indicator that I wish I had done, I wish I could go back and do that. If I could change something, I'd go back and do that. Ask them to put money down on the thing that they say they want. Like, if they say they don't want it, then they don't want it. Then it's okay. It's learning. Like, it's better to know then and adjust it than to go in. But if they do want it, ask them to put money into it and say, hey, you will be the first user of this thing. Pay a little bit of money for it. Figure out that amount. Put some money on the table. When you have people doing that, you de-risked everything else by a ton. That's like one of the key. That's probably my top number one thing. Out of, like, there were 3 key things. Like, that's my number one thing.
Oh, that's so awesome. Like, the art of the pre-sell is really, really powerful, right? I feel like it's still very difficult for people to come to that. They're like, oh, I don't have a product, like I can't like sell something, right? But you absolutely can, right? Like, people, I think, will be surprised at, if you just ask the question, you might get a credit card to charge.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? If you don't ask, like, the answer will always be no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that a lot.
I think too, it's like belief in your product, right? Like, even if there's no product that's created, like the idea, the value that you believe that it's going to serve, like, are you actually solving someone's problem, right? And if you believe in your heart and soul that you are solving that person's problem, right? Then it's like, you're at that point, if you're too scared to ask for a credit card, it's because you're scared that your product, or you just have doubts about your product, is not going to solve that person's problem. You have to understand their problem almost better than they do, right? And so by pre-selling, right, you've now validated that your solution, this idea of your solution does work. Coding and building is the easy part. Like building out the product is the easy part. It's finding that product market fit and validation. Once you have people that are proven and validating that, hey, this is actually a problem that could help me either bring in more revenue, save costs, or like remove a headache, and they will put their credit card down. It's, to me, it's a complete mindset shift. It is not on the customer, it's actually on yourself.
You said it, Jade. So there's a misconception that it's the product that is like, that's the biggest, hardest thing and needs to come first. And you said exactly right. By asking someone for money, even if you're going to get rejected, you have to be okay with the rejection. That's one of the skills you get built. But even if you get rejected, it's okay. But by asking, it kind of forces you, because they're going to ask you, well, why would I pay money for this? And then it's probably the lean canvas. It's like the blueprint of that. It forces you to think about that and do it by going and pitching a product with actual money on the table, because I'm like, well, this is the value that you're going to get. Well, is it? Because I can do this other thing the other way. Like when 100%. I first pitched it, they're like, 100%. Well, I have service staff at restaurants. Like, why do I need your thing? It's 100%. Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
So I had to go back.
100%. It's objection handling is what it is. Every single reason why they won't put their money down is an objection as to why your product or potential product. Because to them, they don't even need to see a demo. The idea of it's enough for them. And then you can say, okay, I'll show you a demo next week, 2 weeks, whatever. Build a quick POC for it, which today can take you 24 hours to do.
Like this.
Yeah, it'll take you 24 hours to build. Book a demo call with them next week. They've put their credit card down. What I've learned is like full payment, partial payment, deposit, bam fam, which is just booking a call from a call, and then like verbal commitment, which really means nothing. And so if you can kind of go down that list, it's really just like you're one, working with your customer, but two, as you kind of get to the bottom and people are really just like objecting to your solution, in my mind, it's like you're now further than you were on the last call, because you now have another reason as to why somebody will not, be a customer of your solution. And because of that, you now understand how to handle that next time, or what do you need to say next time, or what is going to be on your roadmap for the future. So it just gets actually that much more exciting, because it makes the next sales call or the next potential call that much better.
Yeah, you know it.
And even the objections too just ultimately become feedback. Like some of the objections maybe are like super legit, and it's like, yeah, there's actually something here that like maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with your idea/product, right? That is not solving a problem or a pain for them directly. And because that could also be a reason why objections are coming up, right? But so I'm curious, did you go and do the pre-selling for App8, or was that like something that occurred afterwards, or
no?
Like a lesson
I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way. I went and I made so many mistakes, Corey. Like, there's some mistakes I didn't make. But I did not pre-sell enough. This is one of the things I would be like, go pre-sell. The mistake that I didn't make was spending time finding the right co-founder or team that was going to launch with me. That's because it truly is kind of a marriage, and I was patient. I had a failed co-founder that, wasted many months of time. I thought they were going to be good and stuff, and it was hard, but like I cut that real fast, real soon. And then like basically I was like, oh, well, I was patient enough not to pull the trigger on the wrong person, or on just like rolling the dice and saying, oh, I'll just bring on the next heartbeat that I find. And that was the best decision, because like right now, like our CTO, my co-founder, he's the best business partner that I could have asked for this business. And like when he was all in, and we work well together. So that made a huge difference. It helped us get through COVID, because COVID was a really tough time. It helped us get through like the thick and the thin and the good stuff. So
dude, it's so important finding that right co-founder and that right business partner, because it is a marriage, right? It's exactly what you're kind of getting into, right? You're going to see and talk to them more than your own wife, probably some days, if not most days. And so how do you really make sure that you are choosing that right partner? And sometimes it's experience, right? It's like maybe you just haven't had that relationship with them before, and then you've also never entered a type of relationship like that before. So then you kind of learn from the previous mistakes, or maybe you've already built a relationship, but it's in like a different setting. And so how do you kind of navigate that new setting together? I think this isn't spoken enough about in terms of like really choosing that right co-founder and that right business partner. because implosions happen a lot more often than it needs to in certain businesses, especially pre-revenue, right? Because
Yeah.
you're all trying to build that perfect thing. And so like, yeah, and I hear you on the whole like pre-sale thing. Like Corey and I, we started Studer back in 2017, 2018. And that was a software that we built and we spent, I think, like a year and a half building before we even got it out to market.
Damn.
And the idea of that was like an Uber for tutors, essentially. Like any
Okay.
single user, if you were a student or a
Yeah.
tutor, this is like a marketplace that connects the two.
Yeah.
And so we thought of everything but the kitchen sink, essentially. And we were just like, let's just like make this whole thing the best thing possible. Spent a year and a half building it, trying to go out and once we deployed it, trying to get into the hands of students. First of all, which was our biggest mistake because students have no money. So why are you selling to a market that
Solve
has no
rich
money?
people problems. Solve
Yeah.
rich people problems. I wrote that down,
Exactly.
actually. I wrote that down.
So imagine that, eh? It's like let's just build a product for a year and a half with no revenue coming in, and then go out and sell to a market that has no money. So it's like a fucking it was terrible. Only to realize that the product that we built isn't even something that they wanted. And so we learned a lot from that, but it's exactly to what you're saying. Like if we were to just go out there and sell it first, do some product market validation, try and get people to try and pay for something to get them early access, onboarding them, all that fun stuff. Only then I think is when you're really starting to see results.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about maybe you talked about you made some mistakes as you were kind of growing and scaling App8. You've mentioned a few here, but you also just mentioned COVID. I want to talk about this. Like COVID really hit the food service industry like super hard. Anyone in hospitality really. So, how did you guys like get through it? Like, because it must have hit you hard, but how did you make it through the other side?
Yeah. It's so interesting because people think that COVID, we were in a great position because what we're doing right now makes total sense because it's like digital payments and ordering it's like, oh, COVID must have skyrocketed you. But we actually pivoted into that because we were doing something a little different before COVID. We were doing something exclusively for sit down, like on premise, between the four walls restaurants around the payments and how it integrated with POS systems. And you could just like scan a thing and pay. But when COVID happened, everything with four walls shut down, and basically all of our customers, we were just like, hey, let's go start selling outside of our local city, it's going to be great. And COVID shut everything down, and I definitely feel for a lot of the businesses that permanently closed. But yeah, we lost all our customers and we had a choice to make. It was like, do we call it a business or do we try to do something? And it's pretty obvious now, but at the time it wasn't super obvious how long COVID was going to last and what consumer behavior was going to be like post-COVID. So we did a prediction. We said, hey, we think post-COVID, the digital acceleration is just going to like skyrocket. People are going to be using their phones for all sorts of transactions. And so in the food space, which is where we had a lot of experience and knowledge at that point, what's it going to look like? And so we predicted that. We took a bold move. We said, we're going to take everything we have in our bank and we're going to put it towards. But one of the key things that helped us was knowing our stage gates. So we actually literally had like stage gates. We did the cash flow. We understood our burn or what our burn would be. We knew the composition of people we needed to make this a commercial product, the digital ordering product, a commercial product, and how many sales we needed to get. And so we had stage gates of like, okay, got to get the product out, get it into the market, sell this many of it by this date. And if we don't, we're done. And then it'd be like a racing game. Like you'd pass, you'd pass the checkpoint and then you like get a bit of more life. It's like, okay, now we need to get to this next stage gate by this date. And like we actually almost shut that company down twice, like 2 times. I could see death like right there. It's like, oh, if we don't get this sale and lock this in, we're closing. But we made it through, and then we were able to pivot into something bigger, found our niches, and we made it through. But it was pretty scary. And I got to say, like, that was like a very financial, like we had to understand how much money was coming in, how much money was going out, and get that kind of up to date based on the sales we were making on a week by week basis. That was it. Here we are.
Jade, you're muted, man. Jade, you're muted.
We'll edit that out. One last question here for you before we kind of like wrap this up, and it really just ties back to everything that you were just saying here. Who did you have to become in order to make that pivot to really like create those stage gates to help drive and find success for your business during that time? Like, how do you see yourself then and now versus who you were before?
What a good question. The thing that I had to do for myself to become who I needed to be for that was to unlearn the right things, because things that I had in my past life were valuable, but I had to unlearn a lot of things that that wouldn't really comply with a situation where it's life or death, where it's like, hey, you have to use a combination of your gut as well as data to make decisions. And if you can't trust your gut and yourself to make those decisions and be decisive, like being undecisive is a killer. So to be decisive, believe that there is a path forward.
Yeah.
And use a combination of your gut and the data that you have in front of you. That was the formula, and that is something that I was not. I was more on the safer side of life before that, and I had to unlearn those things and know how to do that. And that's what I had to change to get through that moment.
Speed and gut, and then just using data as validation, as opposed to just using data as a primary thing. It's almost just validation for your gut and just making quick decisions.
Yeah, that was the moment for that.
Time kills everything. I love that, man. Elias, thank you so much for being on this podcast with us. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I'm so stoked that we met you. Guys, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Elias, is there anything that you want to plug in here before we jump out?
Yeah, I will. I talk quite a bit about the 100 kind of customer rule, and I'll say we typically work with food service brands. So if there are any food service brands that are listening to this, I will say we care so much about the customer journey. So we built something called the Rapid Journey Builder. It's a model that every month we take 10 one-on-one calls and we kind of map this food service brands. If they offer catering or whatever it is, we map out the customer journey for them. So that's something that I do want to share. Find me, reach out, and
where can
we'll
they find
hook
you?
you up with. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll share my email, and I'm also on Instagram.
Incredible. Yeah, we'll have all his information linked in the description below, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We're the Super SaaS Bros. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review. We don't know what it does, but we think it helps. And we will see y'all in the next episode. Cheers.
Peace out.
See ya. Thank you for listening to another episode of Super SaaS Bros with Corey and Jade. We'll see you next time.